please continue eating, and if you want to get up and eat or anything during my talk, food makes people happy, so it's in theme with the talk. So today we're going to talk all about happiness, because happiness is really seen as the hallmark of good psychological health, right? We all want to be happy, and if you think about what motivates a lot of our behaviors on a conscious or a subconscious level, it really is this desire to be happy. And oftentimes, when we think about it, even we're not really ever taught how to actually be. Like even when we grow up in school, we learn math, and we learn chemistry, and we learn physics, and geography, and history, but we don't have a class on happiness. Or even we were talking earlier, we don't have a class on finance, right? How to actually manage our money. Some of those really key, important life events that we have, we're not taught. And so, when I started doing my research, so I'm from I did all three of my degrees at Western University, just down the street. And when I was studying, so my PhD is in health science, and my area of specialization is health promotion. So what I'm most interested in is how do we live the best life ever? Because really, we have one shot at life. And so I look to science and to my research and to the research of my colleagues to figure out what we can do to actually live the best life ever. And when you look to the research and the data, what you find is that happiness is such an important element of our health and our wellness. And so it's not just me that's curious about happiness too. I took a screenshot on my computer when I went on Google. You know how Google tries to auto-populate, like it tries to guess what you're typing? So I was going to type in how to be happy in Google. When I got to how to be, this is what came up. So the first thing that people were searching was how to be happy. And after that, how to be rich, how to be a real estate agent, and then how to be pretty. So it's interesting, right? Beyond being good looking and having money, or being a real estate agent, people really want to know how it is that we can be happy. And what's really interesting is, if you look in terms of the scientific, I had to have a graph. Right? Because I'm following, I needed to have some sort of a graph. So this graph is showing how many publications have been published in academic journals looking at happiness. Did you know that the first journal that published something about happiness was in 1980? So before that, all of the mental health research, all of the psychology was focusing on depression and what's wrong with us. And we weren't even looking at what's right and how do we make that better. And so that's what I studied. And before we get into some of the research, and what I want to do today is share with you guys information about happiness, so that however happy you're feeling right now, when you leave that door today, you'll feel happier. And you'll also have tools that will equip you, so that every single day, you're going to know things that you can do to actually increase your happiness that are evidence-based. Does that sound good? Yeah? Okay. So, what is happiness? It's interesting, right? Because I don't actually have to define happiness for any of you in this room, because we all intuitively know what happiness is. But when you actually try to define it, it can get a little bit tricky. And then not only that, it can get even more tricky because we have all this marketing and media and things like social media where we can actually, this guy's saying, I can't talk right now, I'm simulating happiness on Facebook. Right? Because we can click, oh, feeling happy. But what does that actually mean? And when you look at marketing, this is an ad for Coke, and it says if you open a Coke, open happiness. So they're telling us that. And if you're not a Coke person, but you're a Pepsi person, that's okay, because they weigh in on it too. They say that happiness is a choice, hashtag just so you know. So they're weighing in on it. This is a picture from New York, and it's a billboard that says, happiness is crispy tacos arriving just as you walk through the door. I don't think I'm going to have many arguments on that being happiness, but it's confusing. This is actually a picture I took at the Via Rail station here in London of the taxi, and it says, happiness is delicious food and a huge screen. So when you started, this is just such a small sample of what we're marketed or we're told happiness is, but it leaves you feeling confused, because you're like, well, what is happiness? Is it crispy tacos? Is it a choice? What is it? And it gets even more complicated when you're a researcher, because when you study something, you have to describe what it is that you're studying. And so this is the definition that I use, and I really think it kind of is very good at encompassing of what happiness is. And I mean, it's hard to put feelings into words, right? Like even love. How do you describe what love is? Oftentimes it's a feeling. So this is the definition that I use a lot, and it comes from a colleague of mine in California, and she says that happiness is the experience of joy, contentment, and positive well-being, combined with a sense that your life is good, meaningful, and worthwhile. So when you think about that, it kind of makes sense, right? But at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest myths around happiness is this idea of I will be happy when, fill in the blank. When I get this job, when I have X amount of dollars in my RBC bank account, when I buy this house, when I go on this trip, when I have this partner, whatever it is, we sometimes think, and it's because a lot of it is marketing, that one day we will arrive at happiness. When it's interesting, if you look to the research, happiness is not an end point or a destination. It really is a practice. It's something that we do every single day. So I often give the example of going to the gym for a workout. You would never go into the gym and have like the best workout of your life and then leave and say, okay, I've reached fitness, I'm done, right? We wouldn't do that. Or make a superfood smoothie with like all the superfoods and make like a really big kale smoothie. Drink it and be like, okay, I've reached nutritional wellness, I'm done. We don't think that way in terms of fitness or nutrition, and yet for some reason, happiness, we can often think that way. And so a lot of this idea around happiness, when we look to the research, it's about, first of all, reframing what happiness actually is. When we know that we're never going to arrive at happiness, it's something that we do every single day, and there are skills and things that we can learn that will actually increase our happiness, it changes everything. I have actually a picture of The Rock up here, and do you know he travels with a gym, a 40,000-pound gym. He moves it from movie set to movie set because he wants to work out all the time, because he knows that fitness is something that we continually practice. And the exact same thing goes for happiness. So you might be thinking, okay, Gillian, so I get that happiness is this thing and I'm not going to arrive at one day, but why does it even matter? Why even focus on happiness? Why, if you pay attention to a lot of the behaviors that you're doing, are we basing those on our desire to be happy? Well, it turns out that happiness is really good for our health. And show of hands, who in here thinks that smoking is bad for you? Right, everybody. So we know that, and we know that smoking is really bad for us. That the amount of health that we lose by choosing to smoke all the time is a significant amount. And that amount, happiness is good for you that much. Like it really impacts, 2 grams. It really impacts our health. And it's one of the best things we can do if we want to be healthy is to focus on our happiness. And what's really cool is that happy people are also healthier. So happy people have lower rates of cardiovascular disease, they heal faster from injuries, they are better sleepers, both in terms of length of sleep and quality of sleep. They tend to make better nutritional choices, and they live longer. So even just from a purely physical perspective, when we focus on our happiness, it's good for us. And what's really cool too is that happy people, they also perform better at work. So happy people are better problem solvers, they're more creative, they're better team players, they're rated as more liked among their peers, and they actually make more money than people that are less happy. And when you even look beyond that into, because we have our life, we have our work life, and that's important, but our relationships and our social life is also really important. And when we compare happy people to people that are less happy people are more cooperative, they're more likely to volunteer both their time and their money. They have better, longer, more fulfilling marriages and relationships, and they volunteer more. So no matter what angle you kind of look at it, happiness pretty much is something that's really going to enhance your life. And not only that, there was a study done by a palliative care nurse, and so she was interviewing people that were literally on their deathbed. And she would ask them, do you have any regrets? Because at the end of the day, when we get to the end of our life, whatever that is, we reflect that. She actually had these conversations with people that were on their deathbed. And she summarized it because she noticed that there was 5 themes that kept coming up over and over again. And one of them, the 5th one here, it says, I wish I had let myself be happier. So luckily none of us are on our deathbeds here today, but we can learn something from the people that were and what they did, because they regretted not living a happy life. And so if there's things we can do now to prevent that and to help us live a happy and healthy life, sounds pretty good, right? So that's what I'm going to do. For the rest of the talk, I'm going to share with you some of the science and the research that I've learned and tried myself that can increase your happiness. Because at the end of the day, when you leave through that door, we want to know what are those things that are evidence-based? What are the things we actually can do to boost our happiness? Now, when I first got into happiness research and I started researching it, one of the things I would hear a lot was, well, Gillian, I'm just not a very happy person. You seem to be a pretty happy person, and I'm not, so I don't really want to focus on my happiness. And what's really interesting about that is I started wondering, well, how much of our happiness is actually genetic, and how much of our happiness is actually in our own control? So when we look, about 50% of our happiness is genetically determined. So, there we go. That, you can thank your parents or not, but about 50% of your total capacity for happiness is genetic. And we can't really do much about that. Now, this yellow piece of the pie, here, that's life circumstances. So that's our day-to-day life. That's where we work. That's our family, our friends. And that's only 10% of our happiness. Is anyone, show of hands, shocked by that? No? I was. What if you're in traffic? Like, I live in Toronto. I drive in traffic all the time, and I feel like it doesn't make me happy. So then I'm like, well, it only is 10%. And the reason is because we're humans and we're adaptive creatures, and we get used to what we do every day. So even though we think it might affect our happiness, the reality is it doesn't as much as we might think. Like, has anyone here ever lived next to a train track? Do you hear the train go by after a while? Or do you get used to it? You get used to it, right? Exactly, that's that 10%. That's that adaptive. And the coolest part of this graph is the purple part. And that's because that's the piece of your happiness that you have full control over. That's the piece that beyond your genetics, beyond the life that you live, that's the personal responsibility piece. And so as someone that researches happiness, that's the part that my research focuses on, because that's the only part that we can really make meaningful, lasting change and significant change. So, knowing that, one of the things, so I focus on that 40%, and all my research focuses on the things that we can do to do that. Now, when we look at this, oftentimes, so the first thing I get is that, Gillian, I'm not a happy person. The second thing I get asked a lot is, okay, well, what's the magic pill? What's the pill? What's the one thing I need to do in order to be happy? And so within that, I think that the reality is there is no magic pill. Just like anything else, there's no weight loss pill, there's no fitness pill, there's no happiness pill. It requires work. It requires continual effort in order to do that. And if you're going to put in the work, wouldn't you want to know what are the most potent, effective things that you can do to actually boost your happiness? So what I'm going to do is share with you a couple different ways that you can boost your happiness every single day. So the first one, and this actually was really shocking to me. So when I started researching happiness, I thought the goal in life was to be happy all the time. How can I figure out how to be happy all the time? I really thought the goal was be happy and don't be sad. And then when I started reading into the research, I realized that happiness and sadness are not two ends of the same continuum. They're actually different things. And the goal in life is not to be happy all the time. The goal in life is to make your highs higher and your lows higher. So we're all going to experience frustration, anger, sadness, all sorts of different emotions. And that's part of being a human, and that's part of the human experience. So we can take the pressure off of ourselves to even realize that the goal isn't to be happy all the time. It kind of gives you a bit of an exhale, because you're like, okay, now that I know the goal isn't to be happy all the time, what happens is when you start to do things to practice happiness, like I said, because it's a daily thing, then when you're feeling sad or when you're feeling anxious or depressed, happiness acts like almost like a buffer. And then you don't marinate for weeks or months or years. It becomes a more short-term thing because you patterned that behavior. So when you look in terms when you look in terms of what you can do to boost your happiness, I'm going to share with you my top 3 ways that I have read in the research, that I've seen with my participants, that I read all of the time, that can boost your happiness. Does that sound good? Yeah, so the first one, do you guys remember this? This meme says, before cell phones and social networks, this is how we figured out where our friends were. Right? I showed that in a high school class, and it was like blank stares. They don't get it. So, social connection. There was an 80-year longitudinal study done at Harvard. So this is like, from a research perspective, like really good data. They found that social connection was the #1 predictor of both longevity and happiness. Above everything else, above how much money you make, above where you live, above any of that, social connection. And what I mean by that is having one or two people in your life that you can go to, that you can confide in, that you can talk to, and that they can reciprocate that. So having those meaningful relationships beyond just like being on Twitter. Actually having real conversations with people about anything else. And we get busy, right? And we have all these to-do lists and stuff. And so sometimes spending time with friends, really having those meaningful conversations can fall to the wayside. And yet, if you can remember that prioritizing and making time to actually connect with people really has a profound impact on your happiness. And so much so that research found that loneliness, so not having social connection, is as powerful as smoking or alcoholism on your health. Isn't that crazy? Just by not having those connections. So really putting in the effort to make those connections is going to really increase your happiness. Second one, does anyone have a gratitude practice? I'm curious. No? Okay, you guys are intrigued then. So what I mean by practicing gratitude, well, first of all, any of you guys relate to this thing when you're at work? You don't have to put up your hand. When you're at work, you're thinking about sleeping, and then when you're in bed, your mind starts racing. So our mindset and what we think about, it really impacts how we experience life. And so when we think about gratitude in particular, what I mean is thinking about things every single day that you're grateful for. So in like a good, better, best situation, you would actually take a pad of paper and write down 2 or 3 things every single day that you're grateful for. How long does that take? What, like 2 minutes? Not even? And when you do that over time, it really adds up. So this is a picture of the iPhone, all the different generations of the iPhone. So the first one at the end, that's the iPhone 1. Do you guys remember when smartphones first came out and you took a picture and you thought it was like the coolest thing in the world? And now if you look at how blurry that first strawberry is compared to the iPhone 6, it really shows that when you make small changes over time and you do something consistently, it adds up to a big result. And gratitude is just like that. So I'll show you some data to prove that. Show of hands, how many of you in here would be happy if you won the lottery? The rest of you are lying. You would all be very happy when you won the lottery. So not surprisingly, when researchers studied lottery winners, so the lottery winners here, they are the purple bar. So when they went and they measured the happiness of people that just won the lottery, not surprisingly, you see a huge increase in their happiness. But then what's interesting is if you look at that purple bar, over 6 months, so they followed them for 6 months, they slowly got less and less happy. The cool part, in my opinion, of this graph is the pink bar. Because the pink bar is a separate group of people, so non-lottery winners, who were told that they have to practice gratitude. So they were taught every single day, write down 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for. So they started doing that. At 3 months, if you look, the lines there intersect. So at that point, the people that won the lottery and the people that practiced gratitude were the same level of happiness. And then what's even cooler is if you look at the end there, the pink dot is way higher than the purple dot. And what that tells us is the people that practiced gratitude after 6 months, they were happier than the people that won the lottery. And I think that's really cool because we can't control if we're going to win the lottery or not. We can control if we're going to dedicate 2 minutes a day to practicing gratitude. And if you do that, then you can actually be happier. Now, I always have someone ask me, okay, well, Gillian, what if I won the lottery and I practiced gratitude? How happy would I be? So if any of you guys win the lottery, let me know. We'll study and find out. Now, you might be wondering, okay, well, what do I have to ask myself in terms of practicing gratitude? What questions do I have to ask? This is Waldo. He's at a bar. And he's saying, nobody ever asks, how's Waldo? Right? So questions matter. And so this is just a sample, and this slide deck will be available to you guys after. This is just a sample of some different questions about gratitude that you can ask. What's really important to know is that it doesn't matter what type of gratitude you reflect on, it just matters that you do. So whether you think about things in your life that you're grateful for, whether you think about people that you're grateful for, things that happen to you that you're grateful for, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you focus on things in your life that you are thankful for, that you appreciate, and you really acknowledge them. Make sense? Okay, so the next one. If any of you guys have kids or grandkids or nieces, nephews that listen to Frozen, the song's in your head all day now, I'm sorry. But letting go. And I say this because so often we have our to-do list, everything that we need to do every single day. And it gets overwhelming because you're like, okay, well, now Gillian says I have to practice gratitude, I have to do this, and it can get overwhelming to the point where you almost like don't even know where to start, or there's 24 hours in the day. how do you actually fill that time? So one of the good things about happiness is that sometimes removing or deleting things can actually impact your happiness. So I'm sure some of you guys know those people. I call them energy vampires, right? When you go and you hang out with them or you have coffee with them and you leave and you just feel drained. So sometimes what you can do is take inventory of your life throughout your day as you go, and every once in a while check in and say, okay, I just did this, do I feel more happy or less happy? And then you get to know the things in your life that you do that increase your happiness and the things in your life that you do that don't. Some of those things you can't change as easily as others, things like family, for example. And there are some things that we can. And so having that self-awareness to start to pay attention to that, removing those things that can be just drag down your happiness can actually increase your happiness. So that's kind of cool. So at the end of the day, when we look to the science of happiness and we look at all the different things that we can do, it really is those small things that are done over time that are the big things. And like I said, people always ask me if there's a magic pill for happiness. And I always say, no, you are the pharmacist. Because you know when I showed you that 40%, that's the only piece of our happiness that we can even change. And when we look and we do things like practice gratitude, remove things from our life we don't, recognize that the goal isn't to be happy all the time, we can start to realize that happiness is something I need to work at every single day. And there are things that I can do to do that. Now, I don't know if any of you guys listen to podcasts, but I listen to Tim Ferriss' podcast a lot, and he had a guest on named Derek Sivers. And Derek said, well, if more information was the answer, we'd all be billionaires with perfect apps. And I thought about that, and I'm like, he's right. Because knowing what to do isn't enough, right? We actually have to take action to make those things happen. So especially with something like happiness, it's not a passive thing. It's not something that will just happen. You won't arrive at it one day. So when you can reframe happiness and you can start to see that those little things that seemingly day to day don't really matter, over time they add up. So what you can even do is do your own happiness experiment on yourself. So go home tonight and check in, and on a scale of say 1 to 10, write down how happy you feel. And then try something like practicing gratitude for a month. Commit to doing it every single day, and then see how you feel. Because our bodies are our best teachers, and I always say I'm a student of my body, because if I'm going to research happiness, I want to research it within myself, too. We all do. So what you can do is really try these things, and then notice how it makes you feel. Because at the end of the day, we all want to live the best life ever. We really only have one shot at it. And so if there's simple, evidence-based ways that we can actually improve our happiness, then why wouldn't we do them, right? So with that, I'll wrap up. That's my email. If you guys have any questions at all, please shoot me a message. And I hope you're all happier now. Thank you.